In a moment, we're asking if Rishi Sunak should throw in the towel. Yes, really, that's our question. 2 of his ministers have now quit their roles and joined the growing number of MPs stepping down. There's still no election on the horizon. Is he right to just press on? We're taking your calls on that. 0207 862 2222. Then, do we get sexier with age? Former Cabinet Minister Nadine Dorries says, yes, I do. She's more in demand than ever at 66. Can you relate to that? Do you see people coming, appreciative glances as you get older? Then a few more stories from the papers and everywhere else, including Alan Titchmarsh causing a row in North Korea with his trousers. At 11:15, Storm will debate whether sausage dogs should be banned. This is a show today, isn't it? We've got everything. 12:45, Alexis and friends, and this is how you get in touch. Let me just show you with the help of Dick Dastardly here. 020 7862 2222. 16 people a minute if you're ringing on a landline. But is it Muttley, the dog? Muttley points out with the mobile, it can be dearer if you ring on a mobile, or as we call it, a smartphone or a new phone. Facebook, TikTok, Threads. I'm on Insta a bit personally if you want to follow me there. X, the sewer, and then YouTube as well. You can go. And Twitter's got worse and worse, even in the last few days. It really is a shootout. Oh my goodness.
I thought you were going to say something else there.
Yeah. No. We're asking if Rishi Sunak should throw in the towel. 0207 862 2222. The Prime Minister suffered a double blow last night. Another blow. 2 of his ministers resigned, so he had to do a mini reshuffle. There they are. On the left, Armed Forces Minister James Heappey, and then on the right, Skills Minister Robert Halfon are standing down as Tory MPs as well. So they're ex-ministers and soon-to-be ex-MPs. And Halfon on the right did tweet something. We're talking about Twitter. He tweeted something kind of funny. And you don't see this very often. So he says, working hard for Harlow. That's his Twitter handle there. And he says, as I move towards stepping down at the general election, I'm reminded of what Gandalf said to Frodo Baggins after the defeat of Sauron in Lord of the Rings. I am with you at present, but soon I shall not be. Is this the right voice? I'm not coming to the Shire. My time is over. And as for you, my dear friends, you'll need to no help. Among the great you are, and I have no longer any fear at all for any of you. And then Mr. Halfon says, although I feel more like the character Bilbo Baggins than Gandalf, I believe these words have great resonance. So he's giving people a line from Lord of the Rings, and we're asking whether that movie sums up the epic scale of the problems facing Rishi Sunak.
The weapon of the enemy is a gift.
The ring must be destroyed.
It was made in the fires of Mount Doom.
OK, freeze it. Freeze it on Mount Doom. Let's imagine that's Rishi Sunak's Mount Doom, and there he is, the Lord of the Ring, which is looking increasingly rusty, and he's dealing with, firstly, resignation, so that Halfon, Heappey, whoever it is standing down, that doesn't help anyone. Then scandals. This is Scott Benton. He's having to go as an MP. He got caught in a gambling sting by the newspapers. You've got the general low battery thing you get after 14 years in power. And then right on the horizon, the spectre of Boris Johnson and MPs who are quietly saying, it was better under Boris. And he's dealing with all that. And that's the mountain of doom. There we go. We turned it into Lord of the Rings. And I wonder, Jemma, whether you think it is. We are heading for an epic defeat here for Sunak and his troops.
Oh, and I wish he'd get on with it, because in the meantime, the country arguably isn't really being governed. There's no energy, there's no strategy. It's getting increasingly desperate. I honestly believe the only person in the country, and that includes his own party, who thinks he can salvage something in the coming months is Rishi Sunak.
Well, if that's the case, that's a positive quality, James, right? He thinks he can actually win this.
I think what his thinking is going is that the economy, of course, is performing a U-turn at the moment and is arguably...
Is it?
Well, who knows? But he thinks that he's maybe got one more throw of the dice in terms of if inflation continues to come down, if interest rates are able to move down, and therefore if the Chancellor has some moves to be able to do the tax changes, at least they can do the pinch amendment.
It's too late.
Well, you said...
It's too late. Public services don't work. There are 3.5 million children in poverty.
Everybody who
14
votes
million
the way
people
that
in
you want to
poverty.
vote, let me have a word in edgeways. Everybody who thinks the way that you think, of course, thinks it's time for election, in the same way that when Gordon Brown was in charge and everything was going wrong, everybody thought it was time for election. It takes a leader probably too long to get to that election. It's his choice. I don't necessarily think that he's got much of a chance of sorting it out. I think that there are so many things which have gone wrong, which have been of the Tories' own making. They've made some horrendous mistakes when it comes to tax, when it comes to funding, when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to domestic policy, when it comes to...
They've made some horrendous mistakes when it comes to foreign policy and domestic policy. That doesn't leave anything else, James.
Exactly.
No, it doesn't. I agree. But here's the issue, that they are... I suppose the big difference, as far as I can see, compared to 97, where Blair had a very clear strategy and plan, it was able for people to buy into that. Keir Starmer is riding high on the polls on the basis that he's not Rishi Sunak, and if that's his only claim to opportunity,
That doesn't mean they get to cling on. Just give anybody else another go.
But that's the way it works.
Let me just say, there are now 63 Tory MPs standing down when the whole country next goes to the polls. So 63 of them will not be contesting their seats.
Yeah.
People like Dominic Raab, some quite high-profile MPs. Rishi Sunak yesterday missed a deadline, though, for calling a general election on May the 2nd. So it won't be May the 2nd, because he could have done it alongside local elections. So he's not going early. And I just, if you were at a boxing match and you were Rishi Sunak's manager, would you throw the towel in at this point?
I think it would be the dignified thing to do. I genuinely worry about the fact that, they've all gone off for Easter now as well. He's just said, yeah, off you go. Nothing is happening. Nothing is getting done apart from Tory psychodrama and these sort of boring by-elections that we have to endure.
Well, they did. Hang on. They did a big policy this week, which was to announce that they are going to continue the triple lock on pensions, which is a very, very expensive policy.
Yes.
And
yes.
do you approve of that?
So that's a complicated one. But yeah, they are trying to throw out anything they can to appeal to voters. But every single poll suggests that it's not landing. You say people like me. I mean, I seem to represent just people that don't want the Tories. Doesn't matter what the rest of your beliefs are, whether you want to go Green, Lib Dem, whatever. But it's about 90% of the country. And
I did see a poll.
Floor.
I saw a poll yesterday that said they were 24%. I have not seen a poll that takes them below 20. They've been on 20 in the last couple of months. And I thought 24, maybe that's dead cat bounce. If you throw anything hard enough at the floor, it will lift a bit when it hits it. But 24 to Labour's 44, 20-point gap, doable. Worth fighting for,
Look,
James?
everything is doable, and it is in the Prime Minister's
Why do you
remit.
want them to stay?
I don't want them to stay. I didn't say that I did. I'm just saying what their choices are. If I was Rishi Sunak, I would not go to the polls now, because he's still got a run in at having a go to try and he can't do any worse, so he might as well try.
Could.
Well, it could, but I don't think it can get much worse. So I think that what he's working on is the basis that if the economy does show signs of improvement, if interest rates come down, if inflation comes down, and if they are able to make some proper tax changes or moves, then frankly there will be some people who will be persuaded by
that. I think people are finding that more insulting. Like Andrea Leadsom the other day, she was going, "Oh, inflation's fallen to 3%, and that's really cheered everybody up." And it's like, no, that still means there's inflation for starters.
But I don't think it's cheered anybody up, and I also think that
the
Bank of England have made some horrendous mistakes in terms of interest rate policy. They've forgotten their basic economics, which is that if you have cost push inflation, which is what we've had, you don't just go and ramp up interest rates.
But they did have the Trust government. They had the Trust month to deal with, which...
Well, they did, but that's because, politically speaking, they didn't like that, and the Trust government and Kwasi Kwarteng didn't know how to use the OBR.
I feel sorry for the whole country. I think it's awful. I think we really deserve an election. We actually deserve it now.
Yeah, but that's...
So we're asking whether Rishi Sunak should just get up in the morning and say, this isn't working for anyone anymore, I'm gone. And I suppose you compare it in a way with the moment the drummer left Bros. He just said, it's not working.
And you know what he went on to do? Have a very successful career manager.
I don't think we need to worry about Sunak.
Sunak will do well. And if you think about it from his own point of view, why be in the firing line like this? Richard is in Newport. Hi, Richard.
Good morning.
Well, it's not so much what you want him to do, but do you think he could just say, I am not, blank this for a game of soldiers. I'm off.
Best thing I think he could do, in my opinion.
Right.
The fact is, they've given themselves a rise, but they won't negotiate with doctors to give them a rise. It's just they seem to be just in a bubble. They don't seem to know what's going on in the outside world. Get on the outside world.
You're talking about MPs' pay, and every time we mention this, I have to say it's set by an independent body, but obviously they vote for it. So, yeah, OK, so they're having a pay rise. He's a very wealthy man. He doesn't need to be paid, though. He could easily not take his salary.
Exactly.
So maybe he should say, I'm not taking my salary. That might give them an extra 2% in the polls. If he's richer than the king.
But if you look across it, there's no real plan. I dread anybody going into government now, whatever goes back into government. We're not going to solve in 5 years what's taken 15 years to mess up. I mean, I'm 80 now, right? I was born in 1944. I was born in 44. I can remember my dad having prostate trouble in 1954.
Yeah.
He went to the doctor's 9:30 in the morning. At 2 o'clock, he was in the Royal Gwent Hospital at Newport and being operated on. I mean,
that's brilliant.
He'd only paid him for 6 years. Do you know what? I've had the NHS. I was out of work for 7 years. I couldn't get a penny because my wife was working. I did find work afterwards, unfortunately, and I worked on and put some money in the bank. But what I'm going to say is all I've ever had from the NHS and I 50 years paid in, I had 30 bob. I might say 30 bob old money.
Yes, okay.
That's what I had for being on the sick.
All right. Yeah, no, I've got it. I'm sorry, I don't want to quite go back to the last discussion, but thank you, Richard, so much. Sam is in Shropshire. We're asking, should Rishi Sunak throw in the towel, Sam?
Hi, Jeremy. Hi, panel. No, I don't think he should throw in the towel, not at all. I think, it's easy to run when things are getting tough, but I think this is the time to stand tall, grit your teeth, give it his best shot. I just do not think he should run away because it's got tough, you know.
Well, I suppose if they were to almost say we're not we're doing so many analogies today, but we're in a football game, we're not actually going to field a team here, you would be giving Labour 400 seats, essentially. And sometimes a landslide government isn't a good one. Is that your worry, Sam?
Well, I just think that, it looks as if Labour are going to win, and
we don't know.
Right now, I'm a strategic voter. I will vote for who I think is best. My allegiance isn't to one party or the other. But with regards to Rishi himself, his party members have relied on him. I know a lot of them are running away, and that's what they're doing. They're running away because things are getting tough.
Well, you're Shropshire. You're in this. You might have been Owen Paterson's seat, who was the guy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and he's the guy, in a way, who started the ball rolling because it was Boris tried to protect Owen Paterson and ended up in one scandal after another. It's all started in Sam's seat. We've ended where it began, Sam. Thank you for that. Thanks for your call. Very timely. Alex.